Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Butch UK podcast. I'm your host for this one. My name's Alex. I'm joined by two of our regulars. I've got Graeme and Marianna. I also have someone who you won't have seen on the show before, a Butch UK member. We're trying to bring a new member to you each show, and today we've got Angela with us. Angela, hello. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you very much for having me.
So before we get into it, Angela, can you just tell our viewers and listeners how you became a Buccaneer fan and got involved with the Butch UK?
Okay. So, slightly odd story, really. I remember being fascinated with American football a bit when I was younger, but there was nobody around me into it. So that sort of faded away. And then probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I worked with someone who was really into American football and we chatted a lot. My son wasn't sleeping at nights, so I had lots of spare time in my hands and I'm naturally curious. So I literally just started reading up about it on Wikipedia and stuff like that. And then you start watching it and then you realize you have to choose a team really, because otherwise it's a bit too much to follow. So I chose places I had very tenuous links with. So like an uncle had a timeshare in Florida, literally, and there was a few others. And then I looked at the websites and just got a feel for the teams and how they spoke and the character, I guess. And the Bucs was just my favorite. Plus they've got a pirate ship, and that's what happened. So about 5 years ago now. And it's just been following them from there. So probably not quite your usual path in, but
you'd be surprised.
Yeah. Hey, a pirate ship wins it as far as I think anyone else is concerned. The amount of people who love that. And how did you come to get involved with Butch UK, Angela?
So do you know what? I think it might have been you.
It was me or Kira.
It was one of you. It was one who went, "Hi, have you thought about joining?" And so I did join, and I do pop onto the forum. Generally, I'm normally on there when the game's on. I get distracted by the game. I'm following it on. I quite like following Twitter at the same time. And then I realise the posts are about 5 minutes out of date by the time I look at it. But it is nice just actually seeing the fact that there's other people up in the middle of the night when you're up as well. So.
Absolutely. That's a lovely little segue just to say if you don't follow us on our social media platforms, there are links in the description below, so please come check us out there. And Angela, I also believe that you play for a football team here in the UK as well.
I do indeed. And you might notice my subtle little shirt up there. That's actually my shirt with my number.
What a great number.
Obviously. Yeah. That wasn't deliberate at all. But yeah, so I mean, it was the same chap who I worked with, he actually played as well. And I sort of mentioned to him one day, I wonder what it feels like. This is my natural curiosity getting in the way again. And he said, oh, we do taste sessions. And I'm in my 40s, so I didn't think I would be the natural people they would be looking for. And I think I skipped those ones, and then they had some more later on in the year, and he turned up at work one day with his son's old cleats, which were a size too big for me. And at that point, you pretty much couldn't say no. So I went along and I did the taster session, and I really enjoyed it. And I became part of Swindon Storm a bit under 2 years ago. And then about a year ago, I was asked, would you like to try and set up a women's team? Obviously, COVID got in the way a bit for that. So I think it was about third or fourth time lucky we had our first taster sessions about probably 8 months after we originally planned it. But that's been going since about April now. So got a lovely group of women. There's about 12 or 13 of us at the moment, and we're just hoping to build up slowly and add to those numbers. So hopefully we can start actually competing next year.
Superb. It's great to hear that the women's game is growing as well as the men's game here in the country. That is fantastic.
Yes.
And are Swindon Storm looking for players? Can any women who wants to get involved, can they come along?
Always. Women. We have teams from 13 upwards, actually. So we have a under 16 team, which is for 13 upwards, an under 19s team, which is 16 plus. We've got our adult team, which is technically mixed, and that's for 18 plus. And then you have women, which is actually 16 plus. But you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, and just follow us on there. We'll probably have some more taste sessions coming up in October for all the teams. So yeah, just go along and just have a go. And yeah, I promise you just won't regret it, to be honest. It's fun. It's nice being in a team.
That's super brilliant. And if you look down below in the description, you'd like to check out Swindon Storm, their links will be in the description below as well. Right, let's go ahead and have a look at the loss, unfortunate as it is to say, against the LA Rams. Although the Bucs did do well, we were on a 10-win game streak. Unfortunately, it did come to an end on Sunday. Marianna, I'll come to you first. Just give us your initial thoughts on the game.
I mean, it's sad to see that first loss after such a nice long win streak, but I don't think the sky is falling in just yet, I think is the thing to say. I think there's, we've got to stay positive. I don't think we should sort of start panicking just yet. We didn't start last season brilliantly either. And we just got better and better as the season went on, and certainly after the sort of bye week. So I think the main thing is just not to panic yet.
Graeme, how was Sunday evening for you?
Yeah, very much the same as Marianna. I think we don't want to panic. We got beaten by a very good team. I think they probably found us out where we've got away with it in the first couple of games. We haven't really been clicking, firing on all cylinders yet. And yeah, we'll talk more about the detail of it as we go on. But we certainly there were some glaring situations in that game which certainly showed us up, and similar to what happened at the start of last season. But last season we all know what happened, and there's absolutely no reason why we can't turn it around again.
Angela, I remember you saying that to get into the game, you weren't able to sleep, and you just put it on at late night. Now, obviously, the Rams game wasn't as late as some of the other games, but was that one game that you did wish you could fall to sleep during?
In fairness, I didn't think I'm a horribly positive person. I'll warn you, I'm a horribly positive person, and I went into it and thinking we weren't going to win every single game this season. Would anybody think we're going to win every single game this season? And actually, they're one of the teams that probably are the ones that we could lose to. And when you're watching them, that, like you said, like Graeme said, they're a good team, but they also are a good team having a good game as well. And when you go against teams like that, any little mistake or mischance you do pay for. So the fact that we came out with that score we did, with the injuries we've got, and not playing that great either, we weren't playing our best. I think there are sort of things that we can take away from it and improve and potentially beat them if we meet them again.
There are certainly positives to take from Sunday, and I think you're all right when you say we don't need to hit the panic button quite yet. So let's go and have a look at this offense to start off with. Graeme, I'll come to you first this time. To me, it seemed like the balance isn't quite there between the pass and the run game.
Yeah, I think when Tom Brady's your leading rusher, you've got problems. Well, to be fair, the guy we're up against this week was the leading rusher at New England in the last game as well. But yeah, I think we really need to pick up the running game pretty sharpish. It's been inconsistent in all the games so far. It's not really set the heather on fire. And I said it last year as well. I prefer us to try and stick with the run rather than give up on it so easily. I think that the Rams didn't have a great running game either. I think it was less than three yards per carry type of figures, but they kept with it. They stuck with it, and they took the 3 yards, and they just kept us honest, kept sucking the defence in, and it left us wide open at the back, unfortunately, with the injuries certainly not helping us. But really, I do prefer to see us keep a more balanced attack, even if the run game isn't working. Try and work in a few tricks, and we'll have. In fact, early on we did a couple of little kind of run plays that got us some forward momentum going, but just seemed to give up on it far too quickly. And I think that's the problem when you go behind. You always like to see your team take the lead because it puts the other team under pressure. But when you go behind and you know that they've got the ball to start the second half, and you're starting to think a couple of touchdowns behind, you're chasing the game. And as soon as you're chasing the game, you're passing, and then they're just lining up to pick it off. So yeah, it just kind of went almost to script, I think, which a lot of us thought was going to happen.
Yeah, and do you think that teams are starting to click that we're not running much, so they're adjusting for it as well,
Well,
or
I think they
expecting
do.
it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they block up on the run because they know how, if they're going to pass a lot, they've got a chance against Brady, albeit, they need to get pressure on him. And talk about that. And then the defensive side, we're not getting pressure on their quarterbacks, but other teams are getting pressure on Brady. So he's kind of having to lob balls up a couple of times, and it's not helpful. To fair play to him, I mean, a lot of passes this week, and he correct me if I'm wrong, there weren't any interceptions there.
No.
So I mean, it's quite something that there wasn't more incident in the passing game. But it was a bit disappointing. But for me, offensive line needs to be opening them some holes for the rushing game, because we have two very good running backs. If Rojo ever gets out of the doghouse and gets handed off the ball again, then I think we'll be okay as we go through the season. But it's a bit disappointing.
I think that's one of the things that I think we've already picked up on in the previous games and in the previous pods as well. Like, I don't fully understand why Rojo seems to be so, it seems to have got so far into the doghouse off of just a few bad plays. Fournette's doing okay. He's being that usual sort of typical runner, but he's not in that sort of playoff form that he was in. Gio looked good when he came in, but then again, as you say, we went away from the run, so we didn't really see much more out of that. They started, like moving away from him. But I don't understand this thing about like Rojo's not really getting any chances. He's kind of and you see him sort of left standing on the sidelines. Bizarrely, the guy's got talent. We've seen it. We know he does.
Yeah.
So it just seems odd that we're not using him.
Do you think, Marianna, Rojo might just not be a Bruce Arians type player?
It's more than possible. I mean, it just seems very odd. He kind of really made one mistake in the first game and was kind of, both him and Fournette sort of had the same drop almost, than like both of them. But Rojo seems to be the one that's being punished, and sort of any little mistake, if he misses any little block, or if he, but the others seem to get the second chance, whereas he's kind of expected to almost, no mistakes, no faults, and if you do, you're sat on the sideline.
Let's just take this to a bit more of a positive area for a moment, if we can, because I do want to focus on the positives as well. So, Angela, let's just talk about Giovanni Bernard. Of the three running backs, I think it's safe to say he was the most productive. I think in terms of snaps, I think he saw the most. He did get a touchdown, and that very interesting. Well, it was. I think, was it called a fumble? I think in the end, where Brady went to throw the ball, his arm was caught. Gio was in the right place at the right time and did make a superb play. But Gio did look really good on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. Yes, and just slight segue. I think it was on Twitter I learned that apparently you could do that in the last 2 minutes, but the rest of the game you can't do that. And I've never known that rule before. But anyway, but yeah, it's so nice to see other people get the chance and go forward. But did he get injured at the end and he's out a bit now? So that's such a shame, because you get a bit of a momentum, and then I don't think they quite know how. It's not serious, is it? But they don't know how long it's going to be to get better. But I think when teams get something like that, it can sort of boost the mentality of the others, because he's gone on and done it. So they're going to be thinking, why can't we? And that bit of sort of friendly team rivalry, I think, always does teams good. So
Absolutely. And one thing we haven't spoken about yet, because what did go really well for us was the passing game, as always. Now, I don't think Brady scored a touchdown, a passing touchdown, that is, if I remember correctly. He did get a rushing touchdown, but our passing attack was still really good. Graeme, what was your view again on the passing?
Yeah, I think, again, there are a lot of passing plays there, and I think the protection was pretty good considering the number of pass plays. I think he was sacked a couple of times, but I'm really, really pleased to see Mike Evans stepping up, and I think that hopefully AB's back this week, with Scotty Miller going by the wayside, it looks like, for a stint on the IR. But I think the passing game's pretty good, and I think offensive line are still one of our strong points in the passing game. They do protect Tom Brady. As long as they can keep him upright, we've always got a chance in a game. But I think Evans is going to find it hard to have another 1,000-yard season with the amount of top receivers we've got there. But it's good to see after a slow start, he's picked up the last couple of games and got a few yards, a few catches. So yeah, looking for him to catch a few more touchdowns now.
And it was great also to see Tyler Johnson getting a few more snaps. Obviously, that was a result of Scotty Miller picking up that niggle. But we all know how good Tyler Johnson is, and he came in and did a really astounding job there. Let's just quickly touch on the O-line a little bit more, because we haven't spoken about them in a huge amount of detail at the moment. But just going back to the running game there as well. Marianna, are you concerned that we just can't get this running game going, that the O-line just can't seem to create those gaps so we can get this balance between the rush and the pass?
I mean, the O-line, I feel like shouldn't be a problem, because they were probably one of our key strengths last year, and it's pretty much the same O-line, and it's bizarre that we are sort of struggling to make those holes at the moment. I think one thing that also slightly worries me is that we've given up a few more penalties than that was something that we cleaned up a lot. At the end, like we again had the same problem at the start of last year. It was like constant false starts, constant sort of holding calls and penalties on that O-line, and it got cleaned up. There was a definite sort of thing with the discipline of the O-line as well, and I'm hoping that again is going to click and going to come together in the next few games like it did last year.
Yeah, it's gradually been coming down each game, isn't it? But it's something ridiculous, like it's only the Eagles who've had more penalties than us so far in the first 3 games, and we've lost a ridiculous number of yards just from penalties. And like you said, it's the same team pretty much. And
what's that old saying about the Bucs as well? We only beat ourselves.
Yeah,
and that is something we do find quite often. Let's switch side of the ball now and have a look at the defense. Angela, I'll come to you first here. Have teams worked out how to play against Todd Bowles' defense?
I think they might have clicked it. That I was sort of looking at it and I was thinking, yeah, I think they might have clicked it, because we've still got, I think we're still stopping the run quite well. But all teams do is they run less against us. But we've lost the pressure on the pass. I'm not experienced enough to be able to watch it and see what exactly are they doing differently, are they doing something differently, or have the teams just gone back through the tape and gone, okay, we just need to tweak this, and then we're not getting the pressure, stopping them from getting the pressure on the pass, because the lack of sacks. I love a sack. I do. I do love a sack. So each time I'm going, yes, let's get more, but they're just not coming. And the problem with that is that we don't have great coverage in the defensive backs either for the passing game. And especially now with the injuries, it's just doubling up because they're not getting the pressure, and then we don't have the coverage at the back. And that's probably the bit that does worry me at the moment.
Well, some news in terms of our secondary, for those of you who haven't seen it. Richard Sherman has visited the Bucs now. That happened, we're recording on a Tuesday. He visited today. So maybe for Sunday, who knows, you might see Richard Sherman putting on a Buck uniform. Look, Marianna, let's just talk a bit more about this rushing the quarterback, particularly with our front seven. For me, Matthew Stafford was too clean come the end of the game.
I mean, I think we all commented on the forum, and it's why I love seeing it on the forum, because I think we were all saying it, and I think we all looked at the stats afterwards as well. And I think Vita Vea and Sue, between them, both only played 50% of the snaps. And, Vea and Sue are key, like, in sort of taking those double teams. Not having JPP is an issue. I think, having like JPP and Shaq Barrett and having the two of them and having them sort of bookend makes a big difference. I think Tryon, I'm not going to try and pronounce his full name. I think, he's looking promising. He's getting close. He seems to get so close every week. I think, I'm really hopeful that come again in the next few games, it's going to click and he's going to suddenly, get maybe 2 or 3 sacks in a game or something. I'm hopeful that. But the weird one for me was just the lack of Vea and Sue. And I don't know whether it was, they're not solely for run blocking. We've seen, we saw Vaya last week getting through and sort of taking two men with him as he was getting through and nearly making sacks. So they can definitely play, against the pass as well. It just seemed odd that they were sat on the sideline for so much of it.
Yes, it was. Again, Greg Orman tweets the snap counts, and as you say, it was really surprising to see how few snaps Vaya and Sue were in, unless there's a few niggling injuries there that we're not aware of as well, which is possible, especially because of how banged up the team are. Graham, one thing that I saw in the game, which it gave me flashbacks to Mike Smith's defense, which I'm afraid is not a compliment, is soft coverage again. I'm not liking it. What's your views on it?
Yeah, but it's been a bugbear of us Buccaneer fans for the last several years, really, hasn't it? We've always complained about it. But again, to me, it comes down to getting the pressure on the quarterback. It doesn't need to be a sack. It really doesn't. You protect your defensive backs by putting pressure on the quarterback and forcing him to throw the ball when he doesn't want to throw it, or throw it where he doesn't want to throw it, or throw it completely off balance. And that's how you protect your defensive backs. Sacks are fantastic. I've got to agree with Angela. I love a good sack every now and again. But it doesn't even need to be a sack. Probably a bigger stat is his quarterback pressures. If you get pressure on the quarterback and you're chasing him around, I mean, we saw what we did to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And that guy must have run about 10 miles that night, just getting chased up and down the field by our linebackers and defensive linemen. And it was fantastic to see. He still got his passes away, but he couldn't put them where he wanted. And that's what we need. Just have to get pressure. But we know the DBs are banged up, a couple of injuries, some of them maybe a bit more long-term than we would like. But even bringing in a Richard Sherman or someone similar, if you're going to give guys 5, 6, 7 seconds to pick a pass, they're going to pick apart any defensive back. We just need to get some form of pressure up front, and I'm not quite. It's just difficult to see where it's coming from when you watch the game like that the other night. And I started watching the defensive line, and the pressure, attempted pressure, and it was just nowhere, absolutely nowhere. They just ran into a brick wall. So yeah, I think maybe other teams are seeing that as being the way to slow us down defensively. So it's up to. I've got to say one thing. In Todd Bowles, we've got the guy that will work it out, and he'll work out. He'll figure out how to deal with it. So really happy that we've got a good, strong kind of coaching, defensive coaching system behind us. So I think we'll figure it out.
So Angela, you mentioned our defensive backs a little bit earlier. Let's just say Richard Sherman does sign and he becomes newest member of the Buccaneers. Do you think a player of his caliber, of his experience, could be that final piece of the jigsaw that really just brings our defensive backs together?
I think I don't know how quick he is or how sort of on form he is, because obviously I hate to say he's getting older because he's like 11 years younger than me, but you lose your speed and stuff like that. But I think hopefully his experience will help the newer guys feel just a little bit more confident, because that's what they were a young group anyway to start with, weren't they? And then they've lost the most experienced youngsters there. So I think hopefully just having someone there to say, oh yeah, just do it slightly this way next time, and things like that, just helps build people's confidence. And confidence stops people from second guessing, and second guessing slows people down. So it's not going to cure us at all, I don't think. I think we already had a problem there and there wasn't a quick fix before, so if it was cure us, but at least it'll improve our chances. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
I think speaking to the confidence side of things, it could have been so much different, because we started with that like almost a pick six to start the game, and could it have been completely different had that come off, and could that have given us that little boost starting potentially in the lead, and the whole defense plays a bit more heads up. I don't know, they're not a bad group, but as you say, bringing in that sort of that experience of Sherman, I think can only be a good thing to help improve what we've got there at the moment.
I think it's important to remember also as well. I mean, I know we're saying about how that we weren't too keen or too fond of how the defense played on Sunday, but this is still the exact same group that won us the Super Bowl, who played outstandingly during the playoffs last season. And they had a bit of a rocky regular season, and then at the moment we came towards the end of the regular season, and then into the playoffs, my goodness, this defense came alive. Maybe we might see the same again this year. So again, I think panic stations, it's we're not at that yet. Maybe this team just needs a few more games just to get back into the groove, and maybe we might see the defense we see last year. Let's just talk about the final part of the game now. That is, of course, special teams. Whew, I wish we had Kieran on for this one right now, because this could be an interesting one.
Thank goodness we don't have Kieran on. This could take a while.
Marianna, where do you want to start with special teams?
Yeah. Shanked punt. I think that
15
was
yards.
I think I said completed my bingo card. Of just, you know, the bad things that could happen on the day. I mean, we didn't have a. I was actually quite pleased because I noticed that they had Jalen Darden doing the returning, because I think Mickens is out at the moment. So they had Jalen Darden in, and I was really hoping that he would get a nice run back, and he didn't really get anything. Sadly, there was like no exciting run back at all. So I'm still living in the vain hope, because that's my like, oh, he's going to run one back like 90 yards up the field. But yeah, I think the highlight of the day for me was the shank punt, and I just knew at that point it just wasn't going to be our day. Look, we've got a good kicker. He's had a bad day. We've got a great punter. I mean, 2 weeks ago he's putting punts, you know, on the 1 yard line. This week he shanks one. We've had an off day. I'm going to, again, the sky's not falling. In, you know, these are all guys that 2 weeks ago were at the top of their game. They've not lost it overnight. They've just had a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and another thing to remember about this game is that a lot of Bucs fans said this was going to be one of the most challenging games we have in the opening part of the season. Everyone highlighted this Rams game as a potential loss. You can argue this was almost like an NFC championship matchup game, if you like. The Rams have got all the potential to be there. Maybe we were brought back down to earth with a bit of a bump there after a 10-game winning streak, but it was fun, certainly, while it lasted. Right, time to hear from some of our members now and some of their views on the game from Sunday. Alex, he says, a pretty naff. Lost Dean, Gronk, Gio, and others banged up. Big week ahead if we're going to take this season forward. That's the point. Obviously, we're going to come on to the Week 4 game shortly, but we have got the Patriots coming up. Do you guys see it ever so briefly? Just Angela, I'll just ask you quickly on this one. Very short answer. How big do you see this Patriots game coming up? We're going to go into it in more detail in a moment.
I think it's hyped, obviously, because it's Tom Brady going back. But Patriots just are not on form. So I'm wondering whether it's going to be just a bit of a fizzle game.
Our very own Adam Davis. Last season, we won every game when we had 22 plus rushing attempts. We lost all bar one when we rushed less than 16 times. Why can't we just look at other teams and see how they scheme the run game? That's an interesting one, really, because we did touch on the running game and how we felt it was deserted a bit too soon. So interesting point raised there by Adam. Gary, the judge, we need Sherman and to get everyone else back. Injuries are killing us. We are not in great shape injury-wise, absolutely. So we definitely want to get players back as soon as we can, and maybe Sherman might be a really key person to bring in and help us just with that push. Stuart, not a great game, but this was always going to be a tricky game. We've had a good run ahead of us now, hopefully, and they have a plan for the secondary, so I believe things will be different next week. Also, I think Bernard has played well today. We did touch on Giovanni Bernard. I thought he was absolutely superb. It was great to see him have a good game for us. It is that time of the show where we need to say a big thank you to Bucs Report, as always, for helping us promote our podcast. We are really pleased to be working alongside them and the other podcasts that they support. If you haven't checked them out, again, their description is in, their links are in the description below. Please go and have a look there. And if you've got this far in the show, you clearly like it. So while you're here, go and click the like button. Then hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time we upload. Right, let's come to the final part of the show now, and it's time to look ahead to the Buccaneers' visit to New England Patriots as Tom Brady returns to Foxborough. Graeme, what do you think we need to do to ensure we come away from Foxborough with the victory?
Well, I think offensively, said it before, we need to get the running game moving. Defensively, again, talked about pass rush. Mac Jones has been very poor in terms of trying to get long passes away. He's been intercepted. He's gotten into trouble. He's been sacked a few times. So that's the two things for me. If we can pull these off, I think we'll have a comfortable evening.
Marianna, your key to the game?
Yeah, I think get our running game going. I think we've said that. Let's see if we can actually stick with the run. Whoever's going to start, let them, give them a chance. Let's not pull Rojo off after, one 3-yard run and say it's not enough. Let's get him moving. Let's get him, as you say, keeping them honest. I think everyone's got us down as favourites for this one. The Patriots are not the Patriots of old. They're still sort of in a rebuilding mode. So I think, let's just let Brady go out and enjoy this, because I think he really will as well. I think he'll really, this is where it will be Brady at his best. He's going to enjoy the competitive side of it, and he's going to want to turn up, and he's going to want to sort of show his best side off. So I really think this could be, and I'm hopeful that this will be one of those games where Brady just stands out and he shares it around to all the different receivers and really shows us off.
Yeah, I think obviously Brady returning home, he's going to returning back to Foxborough. I say home, Tampa's his home now. I think he's really going to want to show Bill Belichick that he made a mistake letting him go. So I agree with you there, Marianna. So let's just finish off with our score predictions. Graeme, how do you see this one going?
I'm saying 28-10 Bucks, and they'll score. There's 7 of their 10 coming in the last couple of minutes, mop-up time.
Marianna?
I'm probably going to go a little bit closer. I'm going to go sort of a 21-10, but it'll be 3 really nice touchdown passes from Brady.
Of course.
Obviously. And just for our viewers on YouTube, Angela is still with us. We just had a slight technical issue, so she is still talking to us. So please don't worry. So Angela, what's your score prediction for the game as well, please?
So I was going to go with 31-14 to the Bucks. So not that different from Graeme, actually, just a little bit higher scoring.
So I'm clearly the pessimist in a slight way here. I do think we're going to win. I don't want anyone thinking I've got it down as a loss. I haven't. But I think the Patriots might get a few more points than you guys think. So but I do think Tom Brady is going to have an absolute field day. So I'm going 37-20 to the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
5 touchdowns, please, Mr. Brady. Absolutely, that's what I want to do. I think it all go to Chris Godwin, so I can have all the fantasy points with him catching. That'll be even better. So Tom, no pressure. So all that's left me to do now is to say thank you to my co-hosts Graeme, Marianna, and Angela. Thank you three. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. And finally, thank you all for watching or listening. We will be back next week. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Remember, it is a late kickoff here in the UK, so you're going to need that coffee and maybe that nap beforehand. As always, enjoy the game and go Bucks.